For most of human history, keeping food fresh was one of the biggest challenges of daily life. People lived at the mercy of the seasons, eating fresh when food was available and struggling to preserve it when it was not. Before the refrigerator, humanity relied on nature, clever techniques, and constant labor to keep food from spoiling. The invention of the refrigerator transformed not only kitchens, but economies, industries, and even our diets. Ancient cooling methods. Thousands of years ago, civilizations found ways to keep food cool without machines. In ancient Mesopotamia, around 4,000 years ago, people stored food in underground pits or caves where temperatures were naturally lower. The Egyptians and Chinese harvested ice from rivers in the winter and stored it in insulated pits for use in the hot summer months. In Persia, ice houses called yakchals were constructed, with thick walls of mud brick and underground chambers to store ice and keep food cool. The wealthy in ancient Rome enjoyed chilled drinks with ice and snow carried down from mountains and stored in insulated cellars. But these methods were expensive, labor-intensive, and only available to the privileged. For ordinary people, preserving food meant drying, salting, smoking, or fermenting, methods that altered the taste and texture of food. The Age of Ice. By the 17th and 18th centuries, ice had become a valuable commodity in Europe and North America. Wealthy families had ice houses, insulated storage rooms where large blocks of ice, harvested from frozen lakes in the winter, were kept for months. By the early 1800s, an American entrepreneur named Frederick Tudor built an entire industry around shipping ice. Known as the Ice King, he harvested ice from New England ponds and shipped it as far as the Caribbean, India, and Australia. For the first time, ice became a commercial product used in homes, businesses, and even hospitals. People began using iceboxes, wooden cabinets lined with metal and insulated with sawdust or cork, which held a block of ice in one compartment and food in another. The ice slowly melted and had to be replaced regularly by icemen, often called the icemen. These iceboxes were the forerunners of the modern refrigerator, but they relied entirely on natural ice, meaning they were limited by weather and geography. The first mechanical refrigeration. The dream of artificial cooling, a machine that could make ice and keep food cold without relying on winter harvests, began in the 18th century. In 1748, a Scottish professor named William Cullen demonstrated a small machine at the University of Glasgow that used a pump to create a partial vacuum, causing a liquid to evaporate and absorb heat. This was the first demonstration of artificial refrigeration, though it was more of a scientific curiosity than a practical device. In the early 1800s, inventors experimented with vapor compression and absorption systems, using gases and liquids to absorb heat and create cooling effects. Oliver Evans, an American inventor, designed the first vapor compression refrigeration machine in 1805, though he never built it. Later, in 1834, Jacob Perkins built a working prototype based on Evans' design, which is often considered the first true refrigerator. In 1851, James Harrison, an Australian journalist and inventor, built a successful commercial ice-making machine in Geelong, Australia. His system used ether, alcohol, or ammonia to create cooling and was used by breweries and meatpacking plants. By the late 1800s, mechanical refrigeration was being used in shipping and industry, making it possible to transport perishable goods over long distances. Refrigeration for homes. While large-scale refrigeration revolutionized industries like brewing, meatpacking, and shipping, it took longer to reach ordinary homes. The 19th century saw continued reliance on iceboxes for domestic use. It wasn't until the early 20th century that refrigerators designed for households began to appear. In 1913, Fred W. Wolf of Fort Wayne, Indiana, invented the Domelray, short for domestic electric refrigerator. It was a simple machine with a compressor placed on top of an icebox. Though not widely successful, it marked a key step toward home refrigeration. The first self-contained electric refrigerator was invented in 1916 by Alfred Mellows, and his company was eventually bought by William C. Durant, the founder of General Motors. GM formed the Frigidaire company in 1918, which became one of the most famous names in refrigeration. Another breakthrough came from Kelvinator, a company founded in 1914, which introduced the first refrigerator with automatic control. By the 1920s, companies like Kelvinator and Frigidaire were mass-producing refrigerators for middle-class households, though they were still expensive luxuries. The problem of coolants. Early refrigerators used gases like sulfur dioxide, methyl chloride, and ammonia as refrigerants. These were effective but dangerous, as leaks could cause injury or death. In the late 1920s, scientists working for General Motors and DuPont developed Freon, or CFCs, a safer, non-toxic refrigerant. Freon quickly became the standard, and refrigerators became safer, smaller, and more reliable. By the 1930s and 1940s, refrigerators had become a common appliance in American homes. The Great Depression slowed sales, but after World War II, the post-war economic boom led to widespread adoption. By the 1950s, refrigerators were no longer a luxury, they were a necessity. Design and innovation. The refrigerator became a centerpiece of the modern kitchen. In the 1950s, models featured sleek designs, chrome handles, and pastel colors to match other appliances. Freezer compartments were added, allowing families to store frozen food, which was increasingly popular thanks to companies like Birdseye, which pioneered frozen meals. In the 1960s and 1970s, automatic defrosting and ice-making features were introduced, adding convenience. Larger models with side-by-side refrigerator and freezer compartments became popular in the 1980s. Refrigerators continued to evolve with energy efficiency improvements, better insulation, and more advanced controls. Environmental concerns. By the late 19th century, scientists discovered that CFCs, the refrigerants once praised for their safety, were destroying the Earth's ozone layer. This led to the Montreal Protocol of 1987, a global agreement to phase out ozone-depleting substances. Refrigerators switched to new, more environmentally friendly refrigerants, first HCFCs and later HFCs, and natural alternatives like isobutane. The modern refrigerator. Today's refrigerators are more advanced than ever. They feature precise temperature controls, water and ice dispensers, humidity drawers, and energy-efficient compressors. In recent years, smart refrigerators have entered the market, equipped with touchscreens, cameras that let you see inside without opening the door, and Wi-Fi connectivity to track groceries and suggest recipes. At the same time, refrigerators remain one of the most essential appliances in the world. They not only keep food safe and fresh, but also shape how we eat, shop, and live. Without them, global food distribution, modern supermarkets, and many cuisines would be impossible. The legacy of refrigeration. The refrigerator's history is more than the story of a machine. It is the story of civilization's fight against spoilage, hunger, and waste. From underground ice pits to smart fridges, refrigeration has transformed human life. It has reduced foodborne illnesses, made year-round availability of fresh produce possible, and allowed families to store leftovers and plan meals with ease. In just over a century, the refrigerator went from a luxury item for the wealthy to a basic necessity found in nearly every household on Earth. It is one of the quiet giants of modern technology, taken for granted, but absolutely essential.